Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure of mine to spend the next 45 minutes with Mr. Bafel Talabani. I'm looking forward to this conversation with you, sir. And let me just start with some introductory remarks, and then we move to the questions. And I think the questions, I will try as much as possible to cover a variety of topics, starting with internal PUK politics, then moving to the region, the KDP, and then the Middle East writ large, if that's okay with you. That's the plan of action.
I'm at your service.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan has long been a cornerstone of Kurdish politics, shaping the Kurdistan region of Iraq and contributing to Baghdad's federal government. While struggling with internal divisions, the PUK must navigate a highly complex Iraqi political landscape to secure the rights of the people of Kurdistan. Regional powers, including Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and others, exert influence that further complicates the PUK position. The leadership...
Not to me.
Huh?
Not to me.
Okay, we'll get to that. How about that? The leadership faces a critical test to rebuild unity, heal internal splits, and define a strategy that positions the PUK as a reliable partner in both Iraq and the wider Middle East. Which brings me to my first question, sir.
Please.
How do you see your party now, and how will you, as a leader of the PUK, heal internal divisions and prevent further factionalism?
There are no internal divisions in the PUK. PUK is more united now than it's ever been. And the proof is in the pudding. All you need to do is look at the last elections. Every single election that we've had since we've had a new leadership, our votes have increased exponentially from the election before. And that is the examination that a political party is put through, like a student at school. Patriotic Union of Kurdistan is in the strongest position it's been for many, many, many years. We had a lot of problems historically. We've had issues with Imam Jilal becoming sick, and then his successors, Khosrat, Hero Khan, one after the other. Many political parties would have had a difficult time surviving such traumas, but the PUK, because of its depth of cadre and its depth of support, was quite easily able to surmount these obstacles. From no time at all, for the first time in 25 years, just a couple of years ago, the PUK was able to become the #1 vote winner and seat winner in the provincial elections. And in the last election, even, our votes across the theatre went up by an average of 93%, which I'm not happy with, because I know the potential of the PUK. And until the PUK is again the #1 party in the Middle East, I will not be happy, and neither will my leadership.
How does your party support an investment climate in the region under your influence?
With great experience and wisdom. You just need to look at Suleimania in the last 3 years. In the middle of a financial crisis, with limited access to foreign investment, my brother and his team have able to create more projects in these 3 years than even in the boom times of Kurdistan, when oil was plentiful and oil was flowing and the budgets were very, very high. And they've done this by very, very interesting ideas with exchanges of projects for lands and for other investment possibilities. But really, if you want me to cut through the political spiel and get to the meat and potatoes of it, Suleimania is open for business, and when you come to do business in Suleimania, nobody will tap you on the shoulder and say, you can have this business if you give me 50% of it. That doesn't exist where we are, and that's what's bringing people to Suleimania. People are coming from the south, people are coming from here, from Duhok, and we're having boom years. And imagine when the situation as a whole improves, imagine how much more the region will move forwards. It's not enough, though. This has to apply region-wide. And when I say region-wide, I don't mean all of Kurdistan. I mean Baghdad. Baghdad has massive potential for growth.
How do you deal with the smaller parties that operate in your region? I mean, and I stand to be corrected on this. I understand there are 3 opposition leaders who are in Sulaymaniyah jail. And what are their future prospects? I stand to be corrected on this, and so you tell me.
It's not a correction. It may be I have to give you more information than you perhaps have. It's not an accident that every opposition party lives in Sulaymaniyah, and it's not a coincidence either. And neither is it a coincidence that almost every political activist today active in Kurdistan and many active in Iraq find safety and succor in Sulaymaniyah. This is not correlatable to the 3 gentlemen that you are discussing. The 3 gentlemen that you are discussing, one of them is under financial charges and personal charges. He's been found guilty in an open and extremely transparent court case. Another one is dealing with quite serious allegations, again, with overwhelming evidence. I'm not sure how that one's going to go. And if you're very politely talking the question of my dear cousins, having a political party is not a shield against brigandry, and neither does it provide you an access or an escape from the judiciary. Let's call them Kaglahur and his faction, the evidence against them is overwhelming. And the evidence against them is evidence that cannot be forged. It is evidence that cannot be created. We're not talking about confessions. We're talking about telephones, hard drives, drones, computers, weapons, ID cards, insurmountable evidence, as well as Mr. Lahore's own words. It was Lahore that went on television and said, "I have a militia and I will fight to the death," etc., etc., etc. Being a political leader doesn't put you above the law. It doesn't mean that you can plan to kill your political opposition. It doesn't mean that you can rob from the business community, and it gives you no safety net from the judiciary, and nor should it, frankly. I didn't expect that. Thank you.
Let's get to the formation of the cabinet and the KRG.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me read something you said. I have a quote from something you said.
I remember most things I say.
You said, quote, "The formation of the government will remain delayed until I'm convinced that it will be different from the previous one.
I agree.
And capable of fulfilling our promises to the people."
I agree.
End of quote. That's what you said.
I am firmly behind that quote.
So help me understand, what are the benchmarks or parameters that are you looking for in a cabinet that meets the aspiration of the people and that will be different from the ones before?
Okay. It's more about the system rather than positions. Positions are important to implement plans, but it's more about the system. The question is, did anybody win the elections? No. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this discussion. The winning party would form its government and continue forwards, and perhaps out of generosity, we would offer the other parties certain positions. The fact that nobody was able to win the elections decisively enough to form a government means that we must have a coalition government. So what do you need for a coalition government? You need partners. Now, 2 of the main partners are in quite detailed talks about the formation of a coalition government, which must be fair, which must be transparent, and which must focus on the actual problems of Kurdistan. And if that comes to be, and if we can be, I'm sorry, there's some insect flying around me. Yeah. I'll get it, don't worry, I'll get it. I'll get it. My blood is sweet.
Here. Oh.
Yeah. It is. I always have problems with insects. Yeah. They automatically, they're attracted to me. Gotcha.
Oh. He got it.
Told you I'd
got
get it. I'll get it.
Yeah. All right.
So if those conditions come to be, then there's nothing to stop us forming a government. But what we're looking for is, and my question to the KDP brothers and sisters, and they are brothers and sisters, is do you want observers or partners? If you want partners, partner with us. And it's like that when we work together on things. Historically, every time we've worked together, we've moved this place forwards. Every time we've worked together, we've had benefits for the people. We've ensured security. We fought Daesh together. We fought Al-Qaeda together. We liberated Iraq together. We wrote the Iraqi constitution together. And this is the mood that we want. There's a reality, whether you like it or not. In a very strange way, we're not each other's opposition. If you wave a magic wand and make the PUK disappear from Suleimania, the KDP won't get one more seat. And the same can be argued in Duhok with us. So what does that mean? Partnership, or you do your thing, I do my thing. Nobody wants that. Nobody in Kurdistan wants that. We want partnership, but we want to carry the burden. To carry the burden, we have to be involved in the decision-making process. It's almost unfathomable that I have to explain this on a stage like this. You would think that that would be common knowledge.
So what does involvement, I mean, how do you operationalize involvement in decision-making process?
The Prime Minister is the Prime Minister with authorities clearly defined. A minister should have his authorities clearly defined. This in itself will be a good start.
Okay. In terms of going forward, managing competition, cooperation with the KDP, should the PUK advocate for stronger KRG-wide institutions to replace partisan security institutions?
Oh, not only partisan security. This is one of the weaknesses of Kurdistan, the lack of institutions. You could argue we sometimes don't even have institutions, we have personalities. And that's not the way to run a country. I'm not happy with that. The building of institutions that are actually institutions, this is what we lack most of all. And I think what makes me very happy is that when I talk to my friends in the KDP, they understand this and they want to move in this direction with us.
So let's talk about the relationship between the KRG and Baghdad. You have been critical in the past of how this relationship has been managed.
It's my job
by
to
both
be
sides.
critical.
Yes. And so we have upcoming parliamentary elections, right?
We do.
And so how do you envisage basically a better relationship, and what are its underpinnings going forward?
There's no real magic bullet. There's just, look, one of the things that we don't always do is we put our signatures to documents that we know damn well will not be successful. I mean, that's the first thing we should not do anymore. Such as the last budget agreement. From the first day they showed me this agreement, everybody was really happy except me. I think it was the Prime Minister Sudani that said, "Why aren't you happy?" I said, "Sir, they're not going to do this, neither are you. Why sign it? Let's have real dialogue, let's have real negotiations, and let's agree to things that we can actually do. Let's say, yes, I can do this, and then follow through and do it." Too many times, personalities, internal personality problems, these things become the crux of the problem, not the actual situation itself. And this is wrong too. And again, how does this disappear? By institutions. The more this is one institution dealing with another institution rather than one personality dealing with one personality, I think the easier these things will become.
So you see the obstacles or the lack of political will on both sides, in moving this forward? Less
now, I think.
After the signing of the agreement?
I think the signing of the agreement, the oil flowing again, the wages coming, I think it's a good mood. And it's a good chance for Kurdistan now a united Kurdish bloc can get back a lot of the rights that we feel that may have been lost to Baghdad now in the upcoming negotiations. So I'm very excited about the elections, and I'm very excited about after the elections and what happens in Baghdad.
So you think...
And what happens to Iraq as a whole, sorry.
Yeah, no.
I'm trying to keep my answers short because I don't know your questions, but you did say, please give me short answers.
No, and thank you very much for your cooperation.
I'm
I really
trying.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Trying.
So,
I can be very cooperative.
Huh?
I can be very cooperative.
You are cooperative.
I am. I'm very cooperative. Thank you.
I mean, I did not expect anything less than that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I mean, again, in terms of the elections.
Yes.
So, in the two panels before yours, there was mentioning in one panel that there is fear of major vote rigging and vote fraud.
Yes.
And then another panel said, no, I think the situation is much better now. And in the last two elections, the vote fraud has gone down. What are your expectations?
Where did it go down?
The vote fraud, you know.
Where?
In the last two elections. That was mentioned by one of the speakers. So, I mean, that's what was said. So, what are your expectations about vote rigging going forward?
I mean, I'm worried about vote rigging. I'm worried about intimidation of voting.
Okay.
And look at the numbers. Numbers add up. I mean, you look at some areas where certain groups were able to get more votes in certain regions than Saddam Hussein. Is that a natural occurrence, or was someone standing over you saying, no, don't put your name there, put your name there? But this happens everywhere in the world. The Americans complain about their elections and that there's a rigging and etc. I think as worrying as the potential for rigging is the vast amounts of money that everybody seems to be accepting from different parts of the world. There are so many different countries pumping money into different groups and different parties, and it makes you think how shameful. With pride, I can say, the PUK has not taken a dollar from any country and will not take a dollar from any country. And that's the way we need to be. When I get to Baghdad, I'm going to say some things you might find interesting.
Please.
Let's do it naturally. Please, you continue.
Talking about Baghdad?
Whatever you want.
No. Go ahead, because I'm ready to move into another topic as well. Please, go ahead.
Okay, so what does Baghdad need and what does Iraq need?
What does Baghdad need?
And what does Iraq need?
Yeah,
more than anything else.
Yes.
A change of mood.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a reason why 70% of Iraqis don't vote in the elections. It's because they are not happy with the status quo. Iraq is a great country. Iraq is the birthplace of civilization, of mathematics, of astronomy, and lots of other things worthy of mention. Iraq needs, above everything else, a patriotic Iraqi movement for an Iraq independent of external influence. This does not mean not having partnership with countries, but Iraq's political decision-making process must be independent, and it must be made for Iraqis, by Iraqis, for Iraq. And once this begins to happen, everything will move forwards in Iraq. And 70% of the voters will not sit at home and watch, I don't know, Judge Judy rather than go to the elections.
Part of that also is, and that relates to the issue of state sovereignty over weapons, over war and peace decision.
Absolutely.
And part of the problem in Iraq, like it is part of the problem in other countries in the region, is these non-state armed actors.
Yes.
Right? And so the PUK has some, I mean, you have non-state armed actors, right?
No, we don't.
You don't?
No.
You don't
Where's
have...
my non-state armed actors? Who are they?
I mean, you have some armed groups, armed elements that are outside the control, for example, of the Peshmerga ministry. No?
The Peshmerga ministry has not been united.
Okay.
We have the 70s forces and the 80s forces. They are recognized professional military units, trained with Iraqis, trained by foreigners, trained by Americans. I'm not aware of any of these actors of which you speak, but I am willing to discuss in detail anybody that you think may be so.
So let's talk about the other actor, which is the big elephant in the room,
What's
the Hashd
that?
al-Sha'bi.
Which Hashd al-Sha'bi? Be specific.
No, I mean,
Are we talking about the general Hashd al-Sha'bi that took part in the liberation of Iraq from many, many threats, including Daesh? Or are you talking about some of the outlier groups that, for example, 6 of which have recently been deemed terrorist organizations? Please be specific so I can answer.
So how do you deal with the latter?
The latter have to be integrated into the legitimate forces, or they must be dismantled.
And does the state have the capacities to dismantle? That's a big issue, by the way, in Lebanon as well, you know?
Yes, I think the state first needs the desire. Once the state has the desire, I think the state has the ability.
But the state does not have the desire now.
I didn't say that. In the middle of an election cycle, I think it would be remiss of anybody to undertake such an undertaking.
Yes.
I think they would need to wait till after the elections.
Okay, all right. Let's move to the region. Syria.
Yes. Syria.
Yesterday, we've seen serious violence in Aleppo, right?
Yesterday there was a lot of fighting in Aleppo.
Yeah.
And today, luckily, with the intervention of Mr. Barak, and a huge thank you.
Mr. Abdi was in Damascus.
Yeah, thank you. And the French also have been playing a huge role in calming the situation, in negotiating and coming and going. And luckily today there is no fighting. And let's see. What's the question?
Where do you see Syria going, especially in terms of Damascus-SDF relations?
I think if Damascus' expectations of the SDF are realistic and Damascus can hold itself together, I'm optimistic for the ability for them to get on. If unreasonable demands are made, I don't expect the SDF to go along with them. And neither would I encourage them to.
And what are the reasonable demands that the SDF can live
I think
with?
the reasonable demands are for the Kurdish regions to have some form of autonomy, whether that be at a governorate level or at something like that, that our language be recognized, that our culture be recognized and protected, as there be some form of security apparatus that's safe for us and acceptable to us as Kurds, and integrated in some way into the greater intelligence and military apparatus. These are reasonable requests. My fear is that Syria, like Iraq, needs a patriotic Syrian project. Syria also shouldn't be subject to the whims of other countries,
and
whomever they may be.
Okay. And with the SDF, there is too much focus, you know, on one particular Kurdish party, whereas there are other Kurdish parties that are not as included or as focused on.
Because they're not as relevant.
Okay.
Because they're not as relevant. I think there's a reality you deal with the person that's able to do things for you.
Yeah.
Look, I'll go back to something that I said in my little announcement the other day. I sit in Suleymania, and there's dozens of parties in Suleymania, dozens of parties. We had a hunger strike of some teachers, and they rejected the opportunity to sit with anybody. But they wanted to see me, and I went to see them, and I'd never forget this. I sat these teachers, they had drips in their arms, and they were sitting on the floor in this dirty tent, hungry, and it was shameful. Just to see that, it really affected me. I thought about it for days afterwards. And there was a particular lady there, she was really aggressive towards me, with her right to be so. And I understood their problems. I thought about some ways of trying to fix it. And one of the things she said to me was really harsh, and I almost thought, it's almost beyond the realms of diplomacy, but she's really hungry, and I get grumpy when I'm hungry, so I accepted it. But I said to her, I said, look, why have you come to me? She said, because you can get it done. And I said, who did you vote for? And she said, not you. Well, vote for me. I'll have more ability and I can get it done easier. And this is the same in Syria. If there was an election tomorrow, we know which Kurdish groups would win the election, by how much they would win. So you have to deal with the reality of the situation. All the Kurdish groups deserve their recognition, all their Kurdish groups deserve their rights, but there is also a reality that we can't forget.
Who are you worried about in terms of local actors as well as regional actors to be spoilers in Syria going forward?
There are the potential for many spoilers in Syria. There are internal spoilers, there are external spoilers. I'm changing my opinion of the leader of Syria. I think he means well. I think he's trying. I think he's got a very good grasp of the troubles that he faces. My concern is for the people around him. Is everybody around him as reformed as he is? And then you look, Syria's in a difficult place. Everybody is vying for influence there because of a strategic location. There's a possibility for Iranian involvement. There's a possibility for Turkish involvement. There's a possibility for Israeli involvement. And I just think Syria should be left to deal with its own problems. We should only involve ourselves to help, not to try to use Syria as a plus for us.
What role you think you can play and the PUK can play in managing these proxy competition, let's put it this way?
PUK is a unique party, ma'am. We have good relations with everybody. You know, we have great relations with the Americans, and we have fantastic relations with the Iranians. I count the Russians as well with the Europeans. Great Britain, I'm still a subject of His Majesty. And then also China, and many, many more. And I think we have a unique relationship with the Kurds in Syria, especially with Mazloum and those others that we've...
Very close relations. You have very close relations.
Very close. He's one of my closest friends in the world. And this puts us in a unique opportunity to be able to mediate and be able to help and put out fires. And that's all the PUK wants to do, really. We have no interest in Syria other than the rights of the Syrian people. They've had a terrible life. And we've seen that in Iraq. We've seen what happens. And they deserve better. And I think that PUK is in a unique position to be able to help with some of that. And you may know, and some people sitting here know, that PUK has helped in many, many steps in Syria.
So, I mean, you can say I don't want to answer this question, but in your last conversation with Mr. Abdi, what was your advice to him?
My last conversation with Mr. Abdi, we didn't advise each other. We threw a few ideas around, and one of my ideas that he liked was to make every opportunity to do a genuine deal with the Syrians and to deal with the reality of the situation and to not be left behind. Because there is a train, however solid the tracks are, we can argue, but there is a train, and it is moving. And I think that we need to be on that train.
And you think he understands that?
I know he understands that. He understood that before I said it. He understands it, but he needs the same from the counterpart. Yeah. And I'm hoping that Al-Shara', His Excellency, can deliver that.
We are all hoping the best for Syria. I think it has influence.
For Syria and the Syrians.
Exactly. So there is a debate ongoing in Syria, and as outsiders, although we are part of the region, we don't want to interfere in that debate, which has to be Syrian-owned, Syrian-led, which is about the form of government going forward.
Yes.
And there are people in Syria who would say, you know, federalism is the way to go. Even Barak, you know, the US envoy for Syria, basically said, there need to be some form of decentralization.
I agree.
What are the lessons learned from the Iraqi experience with decentralization that you can share with the Syrians?
I mean, Syria is a place with different cultures and different religions and different peoples, much like Iraq. Is Iraq perfect? No. But I think the system in Iraq, modified slightly for Syria, is really the only way to go. And I think the Syrians understand that. And it's just a case of arguing boundaries and finding where the red lines are. And I think if they can come to some agreement on that, there definitely needs to be some form of centralization. It's logical.
Some form of centralization?
Of decentralization.
Decentralization.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. It's obvious.
Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of what's going on with the peace process inside Turkey, you know, how do you look at it? It seems to have been stalled, for now. Where is it, you think? What are the obstacles now? Where are the where are the obstacles?
Being genetically an optimist as a Talibani, and optimistic by nature, I just think that the process as a whole has been agreed by all sides. And now we're in very, very minutiae of details. And details are complicated, and it will take time to do this. So I'd rather think it's not stalled. I'd rather think there are now some legal and parliamentary steps that have to be taken. And I'm hoping that these steps will be taken. And I'm hoping the process will continue. But everybody I speak to on all sides is still firmly on board with this peace process.
So what's your perspective then on PKK disarmament? And how can you, what are your policies in terms that try to balance basically respect for Kurdish rights, but at the same time, stability? And
luckily, I don't have to make that decision. Abdullah Öcalan has already made that decision to disarm, so we will be there and assist them in any way that we can.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Iran and its role in Iraq, if we can. I mean, there is a view in DC, where I work, is that Iran has been wounded, right? Its influence has lessened, and so there is less focus on Iraq through the Iran lens, partly because the view is that Iran is weaker now. How do you see, the Iran-Iraq relationship going forward? How do you see that? And do you buy into this narrative that Iran is weakened, and especially, if Iran were to re-establish, its footprint, can it re-establish its footprint?
Are you talking about its military footprint?
Yes.
Okay.
The proxy footprint, not the political footprint.
Be more direct, don't be shy.
Okay.
I like direct.
All right. I promise direct.
Yeah, direct.
So you're right. I should have been more direct.
Okay. So Iran has been weakened. We'll get to that in a moment. You could argue Hezbollah's certainly been weakened.
Yeah.
You could argue that Hamas certainly has been weakened, absolutely. But does that necessarily mean Iran has been weakened? I watched very closely the 12-day war and what happened in Iran, and I came to a conclusion after 24 hours that there were very few countries in the world that could tolerate what Iran tolerated. Not just in the Middle East, even in Europe. Imagine an entire level of your military industrial complex disappearing in a matter of a few hours. Scientists, politicians, civilians. Not only did they survive that, within hours they were able to retaliate. What does this show us? It shows us that Iran genuinely has institutions. They may not be institutions in the Western sense, because there may be a religious form of leadership that goes parallel to these institutions. But the survival of Iran proves that institutions are deep. And in fact, in some ways, Iran, you could argue, has been weakened. In other ways, you could argue Iran was strengthened. We all saw, talking to our Kurdish friends in Iran, that these attacks actually galvanized the people of Iran. It unified them. I was in the UK when COVID broke out, and I saw an old man and an old woman physically fighting over toilet paper. Physically, they were pulling this toilet paper. When Mr. Trump warned the Iranians to leave Tehran, they opened the supermarkets to people. And they had signs up, if you can afford to pay, pay, and if you can't, don't. It unified people. People fled north. Nobody slept on the streets. Everyone was led into people's houses. But the real question is, what do we want from Iran? Do we want less Iranian influence and involvement in Iraq? That can be done, but not in the way that some Western countries think. Western countries don't understand the depth of the relationship, even culturally, with Iraq and Iran. Every single political leader above a certain age in Baghdad, including Kak Masoud, including a lot of the people in this very room, when they were opposition to Saddam, they lived in Iran. My brother and I were refugees in the United Kingdom. I love Her Majesty the Queen, to this day. And it won't end well for you to insult her in front of me. Why? Because when my house was burnt, she gave me a house. When I couldn't go to school, she sent me to school. When my stomach was empty, she fed me. This is the depth of relationship between Iran and Iraq. It's not as simple as the Iranians say, do this, and Iraq says, yes, sir. No. It doesn't mean the Iranians should be in charge of Iraqi politics. The opposite is true. As much as I am friendly with the Iranians, as much as I'm friendly with, well, less so with the Turks now, but as much as I'm friendly with the Americans, this is our country, and we need to manage it, we need to run it. It's not your job. If you want to help us, thank you very much. We'll accept help. But Iraq has to be patriotic. We have to believe in Iraq, we have to believe in our people, and we have to make our own decisions. And until we can do this, those 70% of people won't vote for us.
Correct.
And we'll never really make huge steps forwards. We'll step forwards, we'll trickle forwards, but we won't make huge leaps and bounds.
So one last question. Again, there is a debate about Iran rethinking its deterrence strategy, partly the forward defense strategy.
Yes.
I mean, you are very familiar with internal Iranian politics.
Very.
How is that debate shaping up? Is there such a debate? How is it shaping up?
What I'm hearing from the Iranians is quite simple, actually. My understanding is the Iranians, from what they tell me at quite high levels, is are quite concerned that there will be conflict coming very soon, and not with the United States. I think their assessment is more towards Israel.
Of course.
They can consistently say we have no desire for a nuclear weapon. But there is a complication, further complicated by the attacks in Doha recently. There is an impression among the Iranians, what is the point of negotiating if we can be struck at any times by Western weapons? I think this is a valid threat. I think for talks to go forward successfully, I think there needs to be some kind of resolution to this question. And it's a question now a lot of people are asking. And I hope that there's still the desire to talk. I know that they were really happy with Mr. Vitkov. He was described as a very respectful and smart negotiator. And I'd like to see that negotiations take place between the Americans and the Iranians, two countries and peoples that I love dearly.
In the event, I said the last question, so it's the last question. This is last question, point A.
That's okay.
So in the event of this Israeli-Iranian...
We do this in the Politburo meeting all the time.
In the event of an Israeli-Iranian conflict, which again, many people are predicting and talking about, and a lot of them are Iranian themselves.
Yes.
Where Iraq would be, will it be spared?
I hope so. I hope Iraq will be spared. Last time, I think a lot of groups showed remarkable restraint. The Iranians retaliated directly to the Israelis, and the fire didn't spread. But the potential is that it could get bad here. I'm hoping that it won't. I'm hoping that cooler heads will prevail. And I'm hoping this next conflict won't take place. There won't be a resolution to this with force of arms. Some problems cannot be resolved with force of arms. And knowledge cannot be erased by force of arms. This is one of the main points. Once you've learned something, you can't unlearn it. So manage that learning process, I think, is the way to do it.
So
violence is not the answer.
So what do you think of the Trump administration policy vis-à-vis Iraq?
Vis-à-vis Iran?
Iraq.
vis-a-vis Iraq. I'll tell you what I do like about the Trump administration so far, vis-a-vis Iraq. At least we get straight answers. At least there's a clarity of purpose. There seems to be a clarity of mission. I think the policy is still being formed. I think the file has not been given to a specific organization or a specific personality. But the meetings that we have in the United States, I'm very happy with. I think now you're actually getting more clarity. You'll get yes, no, where before it was maybe just very more confusing. So I think that in deep down, I think Mr. Trump is a peacemaker. I think he has a lot of balls in the air that he has to manage. But I like the fact that he's not afraid of making decisions, because sometimes not making the decision is worse than making the decision. And I think if Mr. Trump does want a more peaceful world, the way clear is easier to identify than a less peaceful world. So it may be more difficult to take that path. Taking that path will take bravery. I don't think bravery is something that Mr. Trump lacks. I saw that assassination attempt, and that was very impressive.
Thank you, Mr. Talabani.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You did.
Thank you.